Therapy and support groups can be beneficial, but they're not always helpful. You have this need to connect and be heard, and that is so vitally important. But having a safe space is even more. Hi, I'm Cindy Shumaker, and I help people struggling with grief unpack and manage all their emotions with ease and grace. You know, there's so many myths and beliefs about grief, and I'm just going to share a handful today from my experience with working with my clients. And please keep in mind that these are in no way universally true for everyone, and it doesn't mean that they'll never be true for some. And it's just a handful. There really is a long list of myths and beliefs that do come up when dealing with grieving clients. And I have found that some of these beliefs will keep people stuck in their grief because at this subconscious level, these beliefs are very deep rooted in traditions and family beliefs. So the first one is that grief has an endpoint. It does not have an endpoint. Grief is not a race with an ending and then you feel normal again. Grief is a journey that never ends. It just changes over time. The next one is, if I'm not sad or crying, I'm not grieving. Well, absent grief is what we call this. And sometimes it can make you feel like there's something wrong with you because there's these preconceived ideas or notions about how someone should grieve. And many times the loss doesn't feel real at first, or you might be focused on secondary losses or stressors, just like if you've lost your husband or a child, all of a sudden you're thrown into this situation where you've got to make funeral arrangements and you've got to take care of things. And so even though you don't realize that, you are shelving certain things and prioritizing others. And it sometimes makes you feel like you're not grieving because you're not crying. And that is not true. Denial or avoidance can be a reason for the absent grief because sometimes it's just safer not to feel. Or it could be that you didn't have a close relationship with that person that has passed and you feel bad that you're not more emotional, especially if this is a blood relative. But the important thing is here, don't judge yourself. You're going through a lot. So leave that self-judgment out of this. The next one is, if I move through grief too quickly, I'm going to forget them. And this is a common one. When you lose someone, the only connection you have left is your memories of them. Feeling like you will forget them if you move too quickly on this grief journey can prolong the grief process. And many times that'll keep you stuck. The key is to keep your connection with your loved one. Honor their memory in a healthy way, no matter how quickly or how slowly you process their grief, which is going to be different for everyone. The next one is, I want my life to return to normal. Well, you know what? Life's never going to be the same. You will discover a new normal. You have life before the loss and life after the loss, but they don't look anything alike. They will never be the same. The next one is, time heals all wounds. No, it doesn't. Time does not heal wounds. It just softens over time. You're going to have these scars and they will always be with you. So time softens the grief, but it doesn't heal everything. The next one is, the first year is the worst. Yes, the first 12 months will be the year of firsts. You've got holidays, you've got seasons of the year, you got birthdays, anniversaries, celebrations, and all will be very challenging. But sometimes the second year can be just as hard, if not harder, because emotional support can get less frequent from our family and friends because they are assuming that you're doing okay after that first year. The next one is, if you're still talking about, crying about, or thinking about your loved one after X number of years, fill in the blank, you're stuck. No. Again, your only connection with your loved one that is past are your memories. You're always going to grieve because grief comes in waves, and you're going to find yourself thinking or talking or crying about them, especially if you get triggered. And this is normal unless it's keeping you stuck in sadness and unable to function in your daily routines. And only you know if you're not functioning appropriately for what your daily routines require. And the next one is grieving is a problem. No, it's not. Grieving is a natural human emotion. And in fact, grieving is a form of self-care. You're allowing yourself to feel and process your emotions, which is extremely healthy. The next one is children are resilient when it comes to grief. And this is a dangerous one to assume. Children can be very resilient when they are given the appropriate time, attention, and tools to cultivate that resiliency. Teaching children while they're young to manage grief will serve them very well as adults. It's one of the best things you can do for them. But they need to know that you're there for them. They need to know that it's okay to grieve. It's okay to express how they're feeling, and that there's not going to be any judgment from you. It has to be a safe space for them. Otherwise, they're going to stuff it down and it's going to come out years later. The next one is going to therapy or belonging to a support group is always helpful. Well, therapy and support groups can be beneficial, but they're not always helpful. Feeling the need to connect and be heard is vitally important, but having this safe space to process your emotions, it's crucial. You're vulnerable and you need someone to gently guide you along this journey. And dealing with everything that you saw, that you heard, that you felt can be overwhelming, because many times when our loved ones are dying, you are seeing and hearing things that you can't get out of your head. And that can sometimes lead to rumination, and you need somebody that's trained on how to help you through that, because that can lead you down a very dark rabbit hole. And if you're in a support group that drains you, or maybe leaves you more sad and depressed than when you joined, it's time to leave. Don't stay anywhere that robs you of your inner peace. And this is the same for therapy as well. Find someone who helps you process those things without the need to return for weeks or months or sometimes even years with no relief. And that is a dead end that's going nowhere. If you found this information beneficial and it helped you, please share it with others who may need to hear it as well. And I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.